Married with Children.
It was going to be a show that was going to be different from all the other sitcoms that were on television.
In a time when feel-good sitcoms like The Cosby Show, Family Ties, and Growing Pains topped the TV charts, Married with Children would be a show where father did not know best.
Did Daddy ever let you down before?
Lots of times.
And you won't be surprised at what Daddy has to say to you.
It was so different. It was hard to imagine this getting on TV and being successful.
It's very lucrative and put me on the map. And of course, there's the downside, which is, you're like Porky Pig,
It had racy plot lines that created a whirlwind of controversy.
I've taken down the names of all the advertisers that are endorsing this type programming.
I actually thought there was a possibility that Fox would shut it down.
Yet despite the obstacles, Married with Children put a network on the map.
Fox was really nothing before Married with Children.
And redefined primetime television.
It didn't just push the envelope, it ripped the envelope apart, burned it, and threw it into the wind.
In 1989, on a Sunday night at 8 p.m., Michigan housewife Terry Rakolta saw an episode of the innocently titled series, Married with Children. For a conservative mother, the episode was anything but innocent.
Excuse me, sir. If you were my boyfriend, would you like this?
Outraged by the racy scenes, Rakolta called the then small fledgling Fox network to file a complaint.
And, from there it became a big cause celeb. The network got involved, the studio got involved, America got involved.
Watching with her children for the first time, Terry Rakolta of suburban Detroit was so offended, she wrote a letter to all 45 companies that advertise on the weekly series, demanding they pull their commercials.
Nervous advertisers began to pull out. Before Married with Children could even get a foothold in the television terrain, it stood on the brink of imploding under a one-woman crusade. (1986). Cell phones were not small. The internet was not big. And people played video games at places called arcades. When it came to television, ABC, NBC, and CBS ruled the airwaves as the big three. But Fox was determined to get a piece of the action and make waves as the fourth network.
They were at a disadvantage because ABC, NBC, and CBS were there since almost the beginning of television in 1948. So they had a 40-year head start on this new Fox network.
Fox would attempt to win over an audience through the development of innovative programming.
Fox needed to distinguish themselves, and I think that they made a very conscious decision to go for a more youthful, maybe a more male, less conservative demographic.
Fox recruited Garth Ancier, an executive from NBC, to spearhead their new network.
Garth was a sort of a wunderkind executive who came up through the ranks of NBC, and so he was picked out to make his wunderkindness happen over at Fox.
I had been at NBC as vice president of current comedy programs, which means your big hit comedies, Golden Girls, The Cosby Show, Family Ties, Cheers, etc. So we had 16 shows on the air.
In a bold move, proclaiming to the world that this was going to be a youth-oriented network, the heads of Fox Television, Barry Diller and Rupert Murdoch, had just put their entire future in the hands of an executive who was not even 30 years old. Ancier and Fox needed to lure top-tier writers and producers to their network in order to succeed. Ancier knew the perfect guys for the job, Ron Levitt and Michael Moy, one of Hollywood's most talented writer-producer teams, but you wouldn't know it by looking at them.
Their appearance, they were iconoclastic guys. Ronnie, about 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, long, greasy, stringy hair. Michael had sort of frizzy hair. They were in t-shirts and jeans. They just looked like stagehands.
If you met Ron and Michael, you would try and give them money to go and get food. because they used to walk through Hollywood looking very much like homeless men. Ron had a homeless guy stop him on the street once and ask him for a cigarette and then offer him a part of his wine bottle because he thought he was a fellow homeless guy. And then his BMW got pulled up and he tipped the guy $100 and the homeless man just watched him drive away.
And they were held up at every guard shack, at every gate in Hollywood for years. They'd be 25 minutes late because the guard would have kept them there because no way you two guys are going in here. They just looked like a couple of bums.
Despite their appearances, Levitt and Moy had combined writing credits of the highest caliber, including Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, The Jeffersons, Good Times, and Different Strokes.
For me personally, when I see extremely talented producers, I want to work with them. So I literally went to their office and begged them to do a show for us.
When Garth said to us, what they want to do is do shows that you don't find on regular network television. And I said, great.
Fox was a fledgling network with no history and little money. But the one thing Anseer did have to offer them was creative freedom.
It was our only chance, we thought, to do a sitcom that we actually enjoyed doing that wasn't imitative. The perks were, we didn't get network notes, no testing, research and development, all of the usual red tape and crap. And this is what they sold us.
For a writer, that's like being a kid in a candy store.
Moy and Levitt were in, and they wanted to do something that flew in the face of traditional sitcoms.
I felt the guys were disgusted by the insipid nature of American half-hour comedy at the time, where at the end of every given 22 minutes, everybody's problems are solved, everybody around the dinner table is happy, and it's just not the way life is.
Their theory was, when you watch television, family sitcoms, Family Ties, The Cosby Show, you just feel terrible about your own life because your life sucks, and they all have clean houses and hug at the end. And Ron and Mike wanted to do a show where no matter what happened, after you turned it off, you could feel a little bit better about yourself.
The creative team agreed that the new show would not be a warm and fuzzy fantasy. In fact, for a while, the unofficial title of the project was not The Cosbys. But they still needed to figure out what the show would be.
It was my job as head of comedy development to at least nudge them along to get an idea. And then one day, I called them up and I asked them to come to my office because I had 2 video cassettes.
The first tape featured a young, fairly unknown comedian named Sam Kinison.
I had it queued up to his 7-minute set in which he raged against mainly women and marriage and how essentially marriage was a death knell for any man. And then the other tape was the very first Tonight Show appearance of a young comedian named Roseanne Barr. Her whole routine, she railed against marriage. I turned to them and I said, imagine those 2 married to each other. And Ron Levitt took a beat and said what every developer or producer hopes a writer will say when you pitch an idea. He said, that's my life.
Inspired by this concept and his own personal experiences, Ron Levitt proposed calling their new show Married with Children. It seemed that all the stars were aligning for Married with Children. That is, all but 2.
Ron and Michael had completed their first draft, and they handed in the script, and I said, this is a great script, congratulations. Just one thing. They said, what? I said, Sam and Roseanne, they don't want to be in it.
The pitch that Fox had agreed to was a sitcom starring Sam Kinison and Roseanne Barr. Without these 2 rising stars, Fox was ready to shut down Married with Children before it even started. It was 1986. ABC, NBC, and CBS dominated television with feel-good programs like The Cosbys and Family Ties. Now, Fox was determined to make waves as the 4th network, creating alternate programming aimed at a younger marketplace. They turned to the seasoned producing team of Ron Levitt and Michael Moy, promising them complete creative control over the development of a new, irreverent, groundbreaking sitcom titled Married with Children.
Ron and Michael had completed their first draft, and it was, I know, was the best first draft of a script I've ever seen. I mean, they really nailed it.
When the show was conceived, the original pitch was, all right, Roseanne Barr and Sam Kinison are married and they have children. And that's a high concept pitch.
But there was one problem.
I spent 6 weeks trying to convince Sam Kinison's manager and Roseanne Barr's manager to star in this soon-to-be television series, both of whose managers said, nope, they're going to be movie stars. They're not going to do television. And I was thinking to myself, well, first of all, nobody really knows these people yet. And second of all, I'm thinking in my head, you know, they don't really look like movie stars.
Without Roseanne and Kinison on board, Fox was ready to pull the plug on Married with Children.
I encouraged the producers and said, look, let's just give it a shot. I think there's some really good actors available out there. Let's start auditioning actors and see what we come up with.
Reluctantly, Fox agreed to go ahead with the series. The team was now starting from scratch, and they had just 6 months to cast and shoot a pilot that network executives would sign off on. But Levitt and Moy saw the setback as a good thing.
The best thing that could have happened to the show. We never liked working with comedians or established actors because they would come in with their character already, which would already put us at a disadvantage because, what, we're going to tell Roseanne how to do her domestic goddess thing? We're going to tell Sam Kinison how to do... That wouldn't work. It would just be fighting all the time.
A casting call went out for the Bundy family. But for the character of the uptight neighbor, Steve, it was a no-brainer. Levitt and Moy had specifically written the part for a colleague from their NBC days, David Garrison.
We knew what you were going to get with Garrison, and that was the ultimate professional. And we knew that he could do that character.